Hello, Defiance Illusion. Coming at you right now live. Got a talking point that popped into my mind. Thought I'd sign and do a little talking about it. You know, a lot of bands from the 80s made a lot of switchovers in their lineups during their heyday. Van Halen, Deep Purple, hell, even Rainbow, White Snake, Ozzy. They all did it. They did a lot of changeovers, man. A lot of changeovers. A lot of changeovers. How did you all feel about that? Just for instance, when Dio left Rainbow and went to just Dio, how did y'all feel about that? Did y'all think it was going to work, or did y'all think it was, too much? Did y'all think like, well, listen to it, give it a shot? Me, myself, I was quite intrigued when Dio left, Rainbow and Black Sabbath and went with his own thing like Ozzy. Reason being, Dio was a talent unto himself. And when he first stepped out on his own, he had a phenomenal guitarist, which a lot of people didn't know about. But those of us in the guitar world that are really like have our noses to the ground, we knew Vivian Campbell. And it was like watching the reemergence, if you will, pardon the cliche, of Ozzy and Randy, for my generation. I mean, you can't beat Crazy Train from Ozzy Osbourne and Randy. You can't beat Flying High Again, Over the Mountain, Sato. You can't beat, I don't know, Blizzard of Oz. The whole album was a great hit. But there again, on the other side of that flip coin, because him and Dio and Ozzy didn't get along, but for Dio's, to take up for him as well. How can you possibly beat Holy Diver? He's still performing his Sabbath hits. And his Sabbath hits, to be fair, was quite a bit bigger than Ozzy's Sabbath hits, in my opinion. I mean, Heaven and Hell, Neon Nights. I mean, it just goes on and on. Ozzy had some great hits with them too, but I just think Dio was the better one in, Black Sabbath. But Dio had Vivian Campbell. Later on, he had Rudy Sarza. I forget the name of the. Oh, that's terrible because I love the original bass player for Dio. I can't recall his name. I'll say it another time. But anyway, you had One Night in the City. I mean, you had Holy Diver and you had Last in Line. You had Sacred Heart. You had, then after that, Vivian was gone. He followed it up with Dream Evil, which I thought was just pivotal. Dio did extremely well. And he had a good run. They went back to Black Sabbath. Then he left Black Sabbath, do a couple more Dio songs, a couple more Dio albums, and he'd go back to Black Sabbath. And, Dio was in and out of Sabbath more than anybody. And I don't think it was because he was a bad person. I think it was creative differences. Now, there were also bands such as Def Leppard that just had a real hard way to go, man. I mean, they lost a lot. Def Leppard, with all due respect, they lost a lot. I mean, they went through a whole lot. One of the first guitarists they had, I forget his name, not that it matters, but diehard alcoholic. They couldn't deal with him anymore. And for the way they were into debauchery, that's pretty bad. Um, that's wow. Um, even Guns N' Roses, they had to pitch their drummer. Motley Crue pitched Vince Neil, but then found out that was a huge mistake if they was going to keep it up, calling it Motley Crue, because Joe Crowley can never be a Vince Neil, or vice versa. Um, and then they got rid of Tommy Lee for a bit and had a had a female drummer, but they also had Randy Castillo on drums for a while. And unfortunately, that's where his career ended because of a stomach tumor that busted or something. Very unfortunate. There was hardly any press coverage on it whatsoever. And Randy Castillo, I believe, was the longest running person to stay with Ozzy ever. Now, Zach may have recently taken that record, but I'm not sure. Man, they were with him a long time. So they were with Ozzy through the good and the bad and the ugly and everything. I mean, it was just, but and here's something that a lot of people don't know. And this is a story I read on that I saw, not read, but I saw on YouTube. And they were talking about Whitesnake and David Coverdale. And all of us know that album that broke them into the mainstream, even more than Slide It In, the one with Here I Go Again, Still of the Night, all those songs were produced and written and everything by John Sykes and, his band at the time. And because, and this is the point, I could be wrong on this, but the point that the truth that I was told, okay, and when I say truth, I mean their truth, that was brought to me was management came to David Coverdale and they said, look, nobody in the States know John Sykes. Nobody in the States know this band. They know you, but they don't know your band. You got enough hurdles to get over trying to break out in America right now. You need to get people that are known in your band. So hence Vivian Campbell and Vandenberg and them, some of them guys, they got calls and they got the gigs and they learned to play John Sykes music. And I listened to Blue Murder, which is John Sykes' band after Whitesnake. And I heard him play Bad Boys, which was also one of the songs that broke Whitesnake out that he didn't get no credit for, but he actually is the one who made that song. Vivian Campbell, to be for real, Vivian Campbell and them couldn't play it like John Sykes. I mean, John Sykes could play that song, man. I mean, it was just wow, night and day. You can look it up on YouTube and compare the two. I mean, and I mean live where it really counts. Anybody can make anything sound good on CD. Okay. Where the bullshit stops and the totem pole starts getting pushed up or down is when it's live. When you perform live, that's the telltale. Because you take the worst guitarist in the world, make him sound like Eddie Van Halen in the studio, and then turn around, he can't play a lick on stage. It's what a lot of other artists do right now when they're singing. They sing through a computer that makes their voice sound 25 octaves higher if possible. Just an exaggeration there, of course, but you know what I mean. So that they can actually sound like they're singing. And then, one day that CD jumps or something and they're busted. Look at Milli Vanilli. I mean, Look at other acts along the same lines. I mean, it's pathetic. I'm sure a lot of rock bands have done it too. But theirs is more backmasking on the band side to use as a filler, so there's no gaps or air in the music, as they put it, because they're actually playing actual instruments instead of computer made bullshit. To me, and this is just personally, I have no problem with no one. But to me, rap died when Tupac hit the ground. When they did what they did to Tupac, rap was dead. Garth Brooks had a hell of a run. When it ended, it was just over. When Garth Brooks ended, Randy Travis dropped off. Several others dropped off. I mean, they'd have their little spurts back up and then they'd drop back down. Stevie Ray Vaughan died. The blues died with him pretty much for the most part, at least the modern blues. Freddie Mercury, I've heard it said, the day that rock died, and then I said that's when Freddie Mercury passed away. Queen was my generation's Led Zeppelin. I mean, I've heard rumors that Metallica likes to compare their stuff to Led Zeppelin. Not a chance in hell. Metallica couldn't even get on the same stage with Led Zeppelin in their prime. I mean, that would have been a freaking joke. And I don't care who it pisses off. Led Zeppelin would have smoked fucking Metallica like a fucking cheap cigar. Now, y'all hear me talk about progressive rock. People that really impress me that are very new. War Kings, when they have Queen of the Damned with them. Very impressive. Cobra and the Lotus, I like them a lot. They got some really good music out. They need more exposure. They need better management. And Melissa Bonney, she needs better management. That girl is so talented. I mean, she's like the best thing going right now, and she's being played down by everybody. But if she got real management, she would explode. Nightwish. There's two different Nightwishes. There's Nightwish with Tara, and then there's Nightwish with Floor. I prefer the Nightwish with Floor. It kind of more Americanized it, but it also kept it more operatic big band. And I felt that Tara had ran the course. She was it just seemed like it to me that like there was some juice missing there at the end. I don't know what happened. It's none of my business, but that's just the way it seemed as a fan. Unleash the Archers. My goodness, that woman can scream her ass off. And the band is not bad at all. Let's see who else. There's so many now. I mean, there's really, wow. Five Finger Death Punch, Godsmack. I'm glad they're still around. I hope things get settled with them soon. And Eddie Trunk, which he's not a musician, but he's a great announcer and analyst. I wish he would come back on the air with another, that metal show type thing. I'd like to see Nikki Sixx redo Sixth Sense. Phil Collen, he's him and Def Leppard. I feel that they got 2 to 3 more good brand new albums in them, but they're going to have to give Vivian Campbell some more space on the on his parts and let him become more creative. Uh, it would make them a little harder now because I mean Vivian came up in that whole rock genre thing about you know I mean he was playing heavy metal before heavy metal was heavy metal. Um, Metallica would demand my head for that one, but oh well, big deal. Care less about Metallica. I think Megadeth was better any day anyway. Um, but so some pleasant surprises have come out of things as of late. Uh, Jake E. Lee's back in action with Red Dragon Cartel. Check it out because Jake is a very different guitarist. He frets his chords and notes and stuff totally different than anybody I've ever seen. Another one that does that, you can tell that he learned a lot of stuff off of Jake, is Warren DeMartini. They're very good friends. They were both in Rat. And that's another one, Robin Crosby, but he's sorely missed. I mean, AIDS took so many lives. So, please be careful out there if you're single and in the field. Always wear protection. And that still don't guarantee nothing, but, at least you're wearing protection. Anyway, Fastway is another band, and as I've said before, they came out with "Say What You Will." It hit, and it hit hard. They were a German band, and they started making it in America. Well, they did a no. They had this movie coming out called Trick or Treat, and I've said this before. And when they started to do Trick or Treat, it's like once they got it done and the royalties started coming in, I'm not even sure if they even toured on that entire record. But Fastway took a hiatus. Now, when you're in the music business, and Adele can attest to this now, when you're in the music business and you have a hit come out, the last thing you want to do is take 3 or 4 years off after that hit. When you are in the middle of a hit, you should be stopping off at recording studios in every freaking town that you got to stop at and recording new music. You got to hit while the iron's hot. Okay. You got to become a fine oil. You have to become that fine oiled machine. You have to just keep on pushing forward and forward and forward and forward. I mean, everybody's got to lock arms and march. I mean, you got to be in step. You got to do what you got to do. You cannot stop. You cannot lay down. You cannot back up. You got to push forward. A band did that, named Bon Jovi. Laugh if you want. They were together, 10, 12 years? And one day, they said, okay, I've had enough. And they said like 8 people got on 8 different planes going in 8 different directions, and they didn't talk for nearly 2 years. And when they did talk, it was almost hateful at first, because they did exactly what has to be done. They had a hit. They didn't want to stop. They had another couple of hits. Then they didn't want to stop. They had a few more hits. Then they didn't want to stop. Then they had a few more hits, and they kept on hitting and hitting and hitting and hitting. Where all the other bands out there were like, okay, we got a hit. We could take a year off. What the fucked up kind of management have you got? Because if I'm your fucking manager, you're going to be having your ass in every time we stop in a town, you're going to be in some studio, some fucking place, coming up with new fucking shit, and also doing maybe a few cover tunes that I, as your manager, would suggest for your encore. Okay? And that's something a lot of bands don't do now as well, from what I'm told. It's almost become a thing of the past for them to come out and do an encore. And that's a true shame, because encores used to be the biggest thrills of all. That's when you got to hear people like Motley Crue step out of their own realm and play somebody else's stuff. It was really good shit. Cinderella, they were good about that. But Cinderella, again, Night Songs came out. The whole album was a hit. Whole album. They could still tour on that album to this day, if they were even together. But, which Tom Kiefler, the lead singer and guitarist, he's still going at it out in LA, but okay, whatever. They took a year, I believe it was, in there somewhere, and their next album didn't sell so well. You know, fans, when you make a hit for a group of people and a group of people like it, the last thing they want to do when they're spending their money on you to begin with is find out that you're complaining, that you're tired, and that you want to take a break. Now, back in the day, people were getting signed for like $80 million on 2 to 3 year contracts. And they got mansions and cars and women, whatever they wanted, it was theirs. Okay? Here's the thing. When you're selling your regular albums back in that day for $12, we'll say, just, you know, figuratively, we'll just go throw that number out there because that's not far probably from what some of the cassettes cost and vinyls. And you sell, you know, 80 or 8 million copies. We'll just say 8 million copies of that. Now, 8 million copies on top of, you know, $12 or whatever it is for a record. You do the math. Company's been paid back as soon as, you know, that's been done. I mean, your whole contract's already done. They're just holding you for 2 more records in case you have some more hits. That way they can capitalize on some hits. So that was a big part of what brought the industry down around the heads of the hair bands, as they like to call them. But the funny thing is, when they sit there and they rag on hair bands, do you ever realize how jealous they sound? You got a guy sitting here that can play 3 chords on his guitar. Now, he might be able to play 15, 20 songs on 3 chords. That's great. That's awesome. Whatever. Big deal. And then you got guys like Jakey Lee that know chords that other people don't even know. Or you got people like, you know, Jimmy Page that made up his own chords. Or you have people such as, I don't know, Stevie Ray Vaughan. They can play that 12-bar blues and put that Texas shuffle to it, which is not an easy thing to do. Or you could go back to the days of, you know, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, whatever, you know. Good enough bands, but severely lacking that inspirational talent that a lot of other bands showed. You know, and while the music was going out, they were still signing people. That's what that's what baffled me. Steelheart came in real late. Firehouse came in pretty late. You know, there were a lot of bands that came out real late. Didn't get a very good signing. Didn't get the mansion, nothing like that. But they had number one hits on the radio. Kind of like when Quiet Riot came out with their first video, Mental Health. People couldn't watch it enough. And it's almost like a miniature, shall we say, horror flick. But you know what? I've talked enough about music for right now, and videos and things, and the way I see things, and a lot of what I said is totally factual. You can look it up. The other is just my personal opinion. Please subscribe and give us a thumbs up. Leave some comments. Tell us what bands you like. We could discuss that. Let's see. Yeah, give us thumbs up. And Dayton Strong in Dayton, Ohio, with a Gator and Gator Alley, remaining Dayton Strong. Love y'all. Have a happy Christmas. And y'all be careful out there. And God bless. And please keep your heads. Please keep your heads. Don't lash out in anger. I know it's rough times right now, but we're going to make it through. Just got faith in God and say your prayers. We're going to make it through this. So with that being said, this is Gator from Defiance Illusion. Staying Dayton strong. Peace out. Love you, baby.